Good evening, friends and colleagues. It's your friendly executive cat herder, Melissa Friedman. I hope that you all are doing wonderful on this beautiful evening. I am tuning in here from San Diego, California, where surprisingly, it has actually been a little chilly this evening. I'm not going to lie to you. So, if you're tuning in, you might have seen the promotional material for today, which was kind of essentially 5 ways to get clients online without being an asshat. So, a couple of people were like, "What is an asshat?" It's a nicer way of saying an a-hole. Typically, profanity doesn't do professionally well on a professional network. So, since we are focused on LinkedIn and we're going to be doing all stuff that's really more B2B, I wanted to be as professional. Now, if it was TikTok, it would be a different story, or Instagram would be a different story. So, let's jump into a couple of statistics about LinkedIn that I think are super important that people don't think about, right? And it's something like essentially the entire American workforce is on LinkedIn. People are looking up all kinds of different things to figure out what's going to be valuable. And the reason I know that LinkedIn is trending is earlier today, I did a very short instructional on like things to consider when setting up your LinkedIn account. And within 10 minutes of posting the video, we hit 4,000 views on Instagram Reels. We got about 152 DMs of people being like, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And so I was like, hey, if you're on Instagram, which I'm actually filming on this site as well, you can jump over to LinkedIn where you can learn about all of the stuff that I'm going to be teaching today. So, really quickly, let's just jump into statistics around LinkedIn. And I think for most people, when you're getting started on a professional platform, now I don't care if you are a small business owner trying to get attention for your business, you're a seasoned executive tasked with coming up with some type of blog content for the company, or maybe you're about to be part of this great consideration where you're changing jobs, you're changing roles, and you need to let people know your expertise. Today is really about number one, getting clients on LinkedIn, but also there's some extras where you guys can learn how to kind of essentially redo your profile, um, figure out like additional ways to engage. And I think that's really important too, because for a lot of people, with a lot of people becoming freelancers, just because you were a great VP of sales at a big company or you are a great marketing person in a large organization doesn't mean that you are going to know exactly what to do when it comes to switching kind of that role in that narrative. And alternatively, I have been on newer platforms like Wisdom and a couple of those platforms. And what we see is that people are getting on those platforms and they're trying to explain their backgrounds to people when we know intuitively people are going to do one thing, which is Google you, right? They're going to look you up. Now, if you're John Smith, you're probably going to have it easier than most people, right? Because people aren't going to know what to do. But here are the statistics. And I just kind of want to give this as the baseline for why we're doing this today. So number one, this year, or this past year, LinkedIn turned 18, officially launched in May of 2003. So, right now, what we know is that because of this, in the United States alone, there are more than 174 million users on LinkedIn. 722 million users across 200 countries and regions. So, when we're talking about who's on LinkedIn, who's hanging out, who's in this space, that is who I'm talking to. And someone is saying, good morning to you. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Nice to see you. And so part of this is really understanding when we look at this, like for example, let's break down some traffic by country, right? So say you're an American company and your client base, or you've been assigned the territory of Canada, for example, right? 27% of all internet users in Canada are using LinkedIn each month. 44% of all internet users have their platform. And so, what we know is that that's definitely something that you want to pay attention to. 60% of LinkedIn users are between 25 and 34 years of age. So, again, really specific information here. But again, if you are trying to reach somebody online, if you're trying to get this presence, that's where you want to look at, right? Now, what we know is that based on data that we're seeing on LinkedIn, 40% of LinkedIn users are changing their job, company, or industry every 4 years. So if you are just starting out at a new company, if you are just kind of trying to create new connections, there's a ton of great ways to do it that don't include any of the ways that people are doing it right now. And you know what I'm talking about. How many times have you gone, in the morning, you maybe get a notification on your app and you see that someone has sent you a message and they're telling you, Hi, nice to connect with you. Here is my talk that I did on social media and why people need to pay attention to it. Or here is my talk on this, or here is my ebook on this. And honestly, I'm gonna be honest, unless there was something incredibly compelling that I needed in the moment, I didn't look at the ebook, I didn't look at the email, and I thought to myself, what an asshat. Like, you don't know anything about me. You don't know whether I need your services or not. You don't even know if I'm in the market, and already you're going to shove your information down my throat. And so, what we know to be true is, are you selling, or are you connecting with people with the things that they want, or are you more focused on the programming that you were trying to get out there? And this is exceptionally important when you're doing stuff. Oh, from South Africa. Nice to have you on. I think I know who that is. Nice to have you. So let's jump into these 5 things to know. Now, if you want to follow along, you might realize that a few months ago, I did an article that is still trending to this day. I have sent out all of the different things. I'm going to throw this into the comments so you can follow along. But number one, first things first, first thing people hate, and the first obstacle to generating leads is spamming people. Um, if you have an item of value that you want to give to people, if you have this item of value that you want to deliver, right, and you have this ebook on, say it's like 5 reasons why you need to be on TikTok even if you hate social media, right, you need to make sure that whoever you're sending this to actually wants that. And so the quickest way to do this, and trust me when I tell you, you do not want to just start sending tons of messages with whatever your value is, because chances are a couple things can happen. You can end up in LinkedIn jail, where they'll go, hey, you're going too fast, you're spamming people, people are reporting your content. Or if it's really spammy, what will happen is LinkedIn will flag the message and say, hey, this could potentially be spam. Do you want to open it? And chances are, if you're trying to reach out to an executive or someone to promote your product or service, you don't want to piss them off, right? You don't want them to get this red flag alert from the product or service that you're offering. So, what I encourage you to do is, instead of kind of doing that, take a pulse. Take the extra 5 seconds to read over this person's profile, see if that is something that really could be on the radar, and then figure out how to start a conversation with them. It might be commenting on their stuff. It might be, sending a quick thing and asking if there's synergy between you two. But that is way easier to ask and see if there's a reciprocal value opportunity, as opposed to just, here's my talk on why I'm so great, or here's the most recent podcast where I talked about why I was so great, right? All of that stuff is bad. So number one, nobody likes a spammer, right? So that is one way to, number one, to get a client, don't spam. Okay. Number two, do not use LinkedIn connections unless they agree to it. What does that mean? Well, when someone accepts your connection request, you say you're connecting with someone because you know, oh gosh, they're connected to somebody else that I need, right? Well, people are typically pretty protective of their networks unless they're like a LinkedIn line, meaning they connect with everybody, right? So, what you want to do is you want to figure out, like, if you were to connect with that person, that person that you're connecting with might say, hey, I don't really make introductions unless I know you or I know your work. Or somebody could say, oh, I'm happy to make that introduction. But what you don't want to do is say, oh, I'm now going to contact the original person that I wanted to get connected to and use this person as a reference and say, hey, I noticed that you were connected to so and so who we have in common. I would love to have a quick chat. Don't allude to an existing relationship if it's not there. And also make sure you ask, hey, I noticed you're connected to this person. I've really been trying to get in touch with them. Is it okay if I mention that we're connected? Is that cool? That little piece of asking for permission is huge, because when that person follows up with their contact and says, hey, so and so reached out to me on LinkedIn, did they ask you, like, what's the deal? They're going to say, yeah, they were actually really cool about it, right? So, number two, that's a great way to connect with clients authentically, but don't use people unless they agree to it. Okay. Number three, platinum rule, treat others the way that they want to be treated on LinkedIn. Okay. So, follow common sense, right? Again, spamming tactics are not great, right? We know that it's a whole thing, right? And again, if you like, I have someone commenting right now that they are very protective of their network and they notice people are checking their connections and they don't even ask for permission. Well, here's the deal. Like you can actually privatize your connections and then they can only see if you have mutual people in common. So that's kind of a trick and a workaround for that. But as it relates to the platinum role, remember this. If you don't want to be like bombarded with connection requests and product offers and offers to buy whatever widget, don't do it to other people, right? Connect with people who have the common interests. There's things that you could do on LinkedIn on your profile to actually go through and optimize and follow certain hashtags that are trending. So this again is another way for you to create a connection without you know, being an Asshat. And really what it comes down to is understand everyone has their offer or their thing that they're trying to get out into the world. We're all trying to do this collaboratively, but if for example, I'm the type of person, I need data, I need research, I need statistics. I need to understand if this offer is something that makes sense for my business. And what I am really opposed to is again, when someone sends me a message, I think I counted today and I wrote it down. Hold on one second. I wrote down, I had 42 people send me messages today where they were referring me to their TEDx talk, to the podcast, to some bullshit. Okay. So let's keep it real. If that's the first impression, that's not going to work with me. And if you followed me at all, or even looked at the last 3 posts or looked at any articles that I've written, you would know number one, I'm a little bit of a cynic and a little bit of a smartass, and I'm going to ask the hard questions. And that's probably not going to be an approach. Right. And in something really simple and soft would be, hey, would it be any value for you to X, Y, and Z? If not, no worries, don't mean to bother you. Really simple. Make it easy for someone to say no to you so that, like most people don't like confrontation. So, and again, don't be too forceful, right? So, step number 4, allow time to build your relationships and build this network. This network thing is not going to grow overnight. This concept of going viral, yeah, it's really a real thing on platforms like Instagram, platform like TikTok, like Twitch, like all these other platforms. You can go viral on LinkedIn as well, but you're going to go viral on LinkedIn for being valuable, for being a thought leader. This idea of spamming people to like, oh, I'm going to spray and pray. People kind of look at it the smile and dial, right? I'm just going to call as many people as I can. Oh, again, that works in some industries. That would work. Maybe you're in a particular industry where you sell a very specific widget, right? I sell a business card case that's brandable. I sell a book. I sell a charger, right? In our case, we are selling high ticket items. And so the services that we have, it wouldn't be in alignment with the brand to make a high ticket offer and then kind of degrade that offer by being hyper transactional, right? Because we're trying to get a customer lifetime value. We're trying to connect with someone for the long term. We are not doing short term tactics, right? Now, if you are in that place where, yeah, you have a more transactional offer, okay, cool. Guess what? LinkedIn has groups the same way Facebook does. Go into those groups because those groups are very active at promoting each other and having those types of relationships, right? So, again, over time, what you find is that if you're finding and commenting on people's posts, and if you're engaging with them in a very specific way, they will open up their networks, their open conversations. So if you're thinking, I'm going to go on LinkedIn, I'm going to connect with 2,000 people this week. Of that 2,000, I should be able to talk to 200. Of that 200, I should close 20 deals. You're in for a rude awakening because that's not how it works. And that is not a thing. So moving on. Number 5, how to not be an asshat. Are you ready? Are you ready? It is pretty simple. Provide value to others. One way to showcase your expertise is to share consistently on your own profile. Write articles, participate in groups, okay? Go on LinkedIn, write articles. There's an article feature, participate in groups, ask questions, share about your mission, and answer questions that people have about your product, brand, or service. Like, don't think about what you want to sell. Think about why someone would need what you have, right? So I see this all the time where, for example, I work with a lot of companies in the fitness and the health and beauty space. And it's like, stop selling to people that are already fit. Like, fit people typically, while yeah, they might buy some more ancillary products, you have a better opportunity and a higher spend for people that aren't on your radar. And so again, it's just kind of rethinking of what is that value, right? So if I was in the health and fitness beauty industry, I would not be on Instagram. And here's why. If I'm targeting this demographic called pink, for example, which is professional aunts, no children, it is a demographic of women that is older, that is not married, they don't have children. Melanie Notkin is the expert on that. You can reach out to her. She can tell you all about that. She's incredible. If you're reaching out to the demographic, a lot of them with disposable income are not hanging out there. They're on LinkedIn, they're on professional networks, right? So, again, if you're going from being on a space like Instagram or TikTok where there's thousands and thousands of people talking about health and beauty progress, and then you think about, okay, my demographic is corporate women. And maybe these women are tired of, they're at home, they're in front of their computers, they're working from home, maybe they want to treat themselves in the middle of the day. Okay, this could be a thing, right? And what you'll find is on LinkedIn, people are willing to answer your polls, they're engaged, and you might capture someone's attention. And on LinkedIn, I can guarantee you there's not a lot of people talking about health and wellness and fitness and self-care. They talk about it as a general term, but there's not anything deep dive on that. So that's just a different way to look at that group and that audience. Okay. And for me, networking on LinkedIn really boils down to having some common sense in this process, right? Like the common sense, and thanks for this, appreciate that. Thanks for that. The common sense really comes down to providing this value and for giving people information and for letting them understand, how can they be involved in your sphere in your world, right? How can they come in and get to know you and how can you become a resource for them? And part of the challenge, especially like when we're looking at LinkedIn, is people are all over the place. They are following kind of spammy tactics and techniques, and they're like, I can't find any clients. And it's like, yeah, because no one cares about you. They care about themselves, meaning no one is against you. They're just for themselves. So if you stop thinking about, oh, I want to sell my program or my course or my new process or my framework or whatever, and start thinking about who is the person that would be super excited by my framework or my process, what you'll find is, hey, do you ever feel confused when it comes to understanding how to attribute all the things that you're doing online to attract and retain clients or track your marketing info? Or do you even know the right questions to ask, right? These are all things that are incredibly important. So, what I have for you as like a little gimme is a guide on how to up level your LinkedIn profile. So if you check out the article, I posted it in the links earlier, you can actually go through and look at your LinkedIn profile and figure out what you need to do to better audit this so that when someone does say, yes, I would love to connect with you, that you number one, that you are able to clearly articulate without having a conversation your value proposition, and why you're great. So, this is the guide. It is right here. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the comments if you want it. It is free. And it's going to basically walk you through the process of what you need to do to make sure that you're fully optimized. And if you're looking at it and you're like, that's a lot of stuff to do. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Don't focus on the whole thing. Just pick one thing a week that you want to work on. And it's really simple. It is going to break down some of these concepts for you. There's, I believe, 10 steps in that process. Do one step a day. Make it simple for yourself. Set the bar a little lower, and you'll be just fine. Now, for those of you that have joined me on Instagram and you're like, I want to see all this stuff, you're gonna have to head to LinkedIn to grab it because that's where all the fun, magical things are happening. But as we start to kind of wind down here, I want you guys to know that, I like kind of being a little flippant about this stuff, but I think it's really important as more and more social networks start to intertwine that we understand how the outreach changes on each network. We might modify a process, we might modify the way that something happens, but we're not going to assume that we can speak to people the same way. And they all have their different, personalities, right? And for some of you that have DM me, you're like, I don't ever want to go on LinkedIn. Well, that's fine. But then you're complaining that you can't get more freelance work or that people can't find out about you. And the chances are, if you just took a couple minutes to quickly explain who you are on LinkedIn and share content and insights and items of value publicly as opposed to trying to spam people to death, you would probably see immediate lift. So, with that, my friends, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope all of you have a wonderful evening. To my friends on Instagram, thanks for hanging out, and I will talk to you later. Have a wonderful night. Bye.